Hey guys, this is Speaker Freak 95, and here's another electronic restoration project. I just got this from a friend, and one of my very first radios that I bought at the flea market was this model here. Being the curious person I was back then, I always took everything apart, and it didn't survive very long. And I never saw it again after I ripped it apart. I was never able to get it back together correctly, so I ripped the speakers out of it, and that was it of that. Plus the 8-track section never worked. And I figured I might as well take my time with this one and clean it up, make sure it works. I used the heck out of it because it was cool and mono and nice. This unit probably has a mixture of bad caps. It's got a decent amount of hum. This doesn't work right. So definitely a mixture of dirty controls and bad caps. Good. Ooh. And because this is an 8-track player, it does have the program select button. Just a simple push button. And I was getting a nice shock off of these tabs, and these handles are broken off, so I'm going to take them off the rest of the way. But it does have the antenna. Well, it sort of does. I'll just bend that back in place. Be into that. It's definitely seen some use. Let's show it before work on it. It's a Singapore-made unit. The battery compartment is not corroded, actually. Just dirty. This thing is really dirty. So it was stored in a very dirty, probably a damp, dirty place. Let's go ahead and unplug this unit and take a look at the insides. And first I'm going to get it working as best as I can. Of course, replace this starchy cord. It likes to, you bend it and it'll stay like that. It'll kind of move back very slowly. I don't like how it feels. But this is just too cool. It reminds me, it's nostalgic for me, because there's my first TV, or first vintage TV, and here's my first vintage radio. And this is the second one of each. That's my first vintage TV, my first vintage radio. And 10 watts. I'd say the power output is somewhere in the 2-watt range. So let me go ahead and remove my 1U equalizer here, and I'm actually working on replacing filter caps in that, and all these little passives here. I'm going to replace all those with new film caps. That's a different video. So let me go ahead and get my screwdriver and take this thing apart. I think I remember how to do this correctly. When you're taking one of these units apart, you want to remember it's actually, these are made with the service person in mind for the most part. There's an antenna wire you have here with a I forget what kind of connector this is called. I think it's called amphenol or something like that. I think I'm correct. And once you do your best to unplug that, this one's stuck. I don't know if you can see that, but that one's stuck. But you unplug that and it'll open up like a door, like that. Go ahead and let me go ahead and pause the camera, set it down so I can get full control of this and not break something. And there we go. After waiting 1 minute for this camera to start working correctly, the thing is taken apart now. And first impressions is this thing is laid out very nicely. I like the way they did this. And yes, this is definitely bringing back memories of when I was taking it apart and found out there was a real tweeter in there. Don't know who the manufacturer of these speakers are, but they did a good job. If I had to guess, they'd be made by Foster or CTS, something along the lines of that. And you can see the main amplifier chip here. If I'm correct, that is an amplifier chip. It's a really early type of ceramic material. Oh no, never mind. Excuse me, that's plastic. And you can see people are continuously blowing up my phone. In fact, I don't think that's the output. I think one of these might be the output, or both. So it's got a nice big heatsink on it. And here's the power supply section, nice and by itself. I am going to go ahead and just throw in all new caps that don't check correctly. These are Nippon Chemicon caps, so those should still be good. Looking at date codes, this is probably from the late 70s or so. We do have Nichicon caps, that's a good sign. And those always seem to prove a date code. So let me go ahead and look at those real quick, and we'll just do it like this. Oh, those are Rubicons. Just as good. Rubicons are just as good. It does have the dreaded pink and purple capacitors from Matsushita Electric Incorporated. Panasonic caps. Those always are leaky, making some issues. I have most of these squeaky seat values in here. 220 at 10 volts. So I'll check these, and should be okay. I'm gonna go ahead and clean the controls first, and I'm gonna check everything, make sure there's no loose connections, anything like that. And if it actually works, I'm gonna leave it the way it is, because the last one I had worked really well. But being the Curious George, or whatever you want to call it, no, never mind. That was a failure on my part. I was about to say peeping Tom. I'm not a peeping Tom. Because curiosity literally killed the cat, but in this case it killed the radio. I never was able to get this back together for some reason. This is talking about 10 years ago, so I was 7 years old. Actually, I was 8. And so it's 9 years ago. I can't even do math today. What is wrong with me? Alright, never mind. Just drop it. Basically, what's going on here is I'm going to go ahead and clean these 3 pots here, because they're very dirty. This slide switch here. Oh! I still got power in it. Oh, that was interesting. So I know those filters are good. I'm glad I didn't touch those either. I'd say there's bad caps because the way it was scratching the way it was just now. And I think I just screwed it up because I don't know which position the switch was in. And this is operated... Oh, never mind, okay. I thought it was operating off of that, and those are always set in a certain direction. It's got a Mitsumi Electric Corporation Japanese-produced motor on there. It's very nice. So now I've cleaned the controls, and I noticed my camera's continuously being a piece of junk today. This thing has definitely seen some use. You can see where the finger has rubbed off this material, paint. This is very hard to move, but it is accurate. As you can see, it moves. No slipping. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of this material here to this big fat contact switch, and I'm gonna clean up the excess off these controls. I'm gonna go ahead and set this back on here, connect the antenna back to where its little plug goes, and I don't know if you can see that. Went ahead and got that. Ooh, you can see that tuning capacitor on there's a big one. I swear, I'm gonna throw my phone into a freaking microwave. Okay, I'm having a problem. Let me, ooh, that's not good. And the kid's upstairs in trouble. I sprayed a little bit of contact cleaner on here, and these knobs instantly became 300 times easier to move. They were just really gummed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in. And you guys will be the first witness if it gives us magic smoke or if it pumps out some tunes here. That's nice. Let's see here.
Chevy.com.
Hey, there we go.
As we reflect this time of year, prepare for our traditions, we would like to take this time to remember the true reason for Christmas and recount the first Christmas story.
Hey!
were shepherds living out in the fields nearby.
Hey, it might actually work just fine with just clean controls. Try AM.
I asked people all over America, what have you done?
Let's get an 8-track tape and test it. See if it works. Well, it took a bit of easing and a little bit of encouragement, but the tape system actually works. It's not fluttery, doesn't sound like ass, it works pretty well. Barbra Streisand. So I think all that's in place now is I'm going to remove these broken handle chunks here. It's going to be a handleless radio, but I don't use the handles on them anyways for that reason. I think this thing's been dropped. Go ahead and stop the copyright issue going here. Got enough of those issues, but... So maybe an alignment is in place. It also helps to connect the antenna. This is part 1. The unit works. And I'm going to clean it up. And part 2 will be the results of my work. Now that I know that this button works here and all 4 LEDs are working, I'm going to be jamming out here tonight. And I'm going to clean it up. And, of course, test it a lot. The next video will be my results with my co-host Pixie. Why did she jump? Nobody knows. Pixie! Hey, what's that? Decent amount of hum. This doesn't work right. So definitely a mixture of dirty controls and bad caps. But it does have the antenna. Well, it sort of does. I'll just bend that back in place and be into that. It's definitely seen some use. Show it before work on it. It's a Singapore made unit. Hey guys, this is Speaker Freak 95 and here's another electronic restoration project. I just got this from a friend, and one of my very first radios that I bought at the flea market was this model here. Being the curious person I was back then, I always took everything apart, and it didn't survive very long. And I never saw it again after I ripped it apart. I was never able to get it back together correctly, so I ripped the speakers out of it, and that was it of that. Plus the 8-track section never worked. And I figured I might as well take my time with this one and clean it up, make sure it works. I used the heck out of it because it was cool and mono and nice. This unit probably has a mixture of bad caps. It's got... I'm good. Ooh. And because this is an 8-track player, it does have the program select button. Just a simple push button. And I was getting a nice shock off of these tabs, and these handles are broken off, so I'm going to take them off the rest of the way.